Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a comedy drama film called Premature from 2014. Enjoy your viewing. Rob has a wonderful dream with a beautiful girl, which makes him feel so good that his mother, looking into the room, is surprised by what she sees. Burning with shame, the boy goes downstairs, hoping to go to school without any further ado, but nothing happens. His father asks Rob to stay for a talk, because after losing the school president's election, he can no longer turn a blind eye to his son's failures. Knowing that Rob has an important college interview today, he gives him his old swimming headband, asking him to wear it before the meeting. Rob's friend Stanley, an equally eccentric, joins him on the way to school, talking about his morning fantasies. But it's time for the boys to return to reality and go to class. Near the school, the friends meet Arthur, a guy who writes lesson plans for teachers for money, and Gabrielle, Rob's friend with whom he can discuss boring people from their favorite show. This whole company is not very well respected at school, and the local volleyball players demonstrate this by pouring water on Rob's pants. This is a real disaster for the guy, but his friend promises to find him clean clothes for the interview. They manage to find only shorts, but the guy has no choice. Either smell bad or wear shorts. To cheer up his friend, Stanley advises him to go to the restroom and relax, thinking about the most beautiful high school girl. Just as they are talking, Angela approaches the guys and asks Rob to give her some extra lessons. But the guy refuses, citing his busy schedule, and hands the beauty over to Stanley. The latter does not understand why his friend refused, because Angela is very popular at school. However, Rob does not want to cancel his meeting with Gabrielle and miss watching his favorite show. In literature class, all the boys are listening to the teacher with a beautiful body with their mouths open, and only Rob is looking at his textbook, preparing for the interview. The boy is called right during the lesson, and after taking more air into his lungs, he goes to determine his fate. Gabrielle volunteers to escort his friend to the deputy director's office, again discussing the latest news from the intellectual show. The deputy director greets the boy in a friendly manner, pretending not to notice his strange shorts. He takes Rob's notebook with the obscene drawing on it and throws it in the trash, asking the student to be himself. The boy begins to talk about how his parents graduated from Georgetown, but after these words, the vice principal begins to cry, remembering his late wife. The rest of the questions elicit the same reaction from him, and Rob even has to give him his father's bandana so that he can wipe his face and come to his senses. But it doesn't help. The interview is a failure, and the student leaves with nothing. Meeting Angela in the corridor, Rob tells her that he has changed his mind and will be able to come to study with her. He hopes that at least this will cheer him up. Rob doesn't dare tell Gabrielle the truth, so he lies and says he's just not in the mood to watch their favorite show with her. After school, the friends go to the pharmacy to prepare Rob for Angela's classes. As a result, the guy confidently takes 3 packs of the extra-large size. At the blonde's house, Rob is greeted by her strange guest, but this does not bother the schoolboy. The girl doesn't keep him waiting. She invites him to sit on the bed and drink wine, saying that his parents are not at home. When this doesn't make Rob more determined, the beauty goes on the offensive. At this point, the guy wakes up on his bed in the same state as the previous morning. Everything is repeated to the smallest detail. An awkward conversation with his father, his old bandana, and his mother's indignation over the soiled sheet. The walk to school also seems very familiar. Even Stanley repeats his silly story. When Arthur and Gabrielle repeat familiar phrases, Rob is finally convinced that he is not imagining things. He is reliving the past day. Dirty pants, shorts, and Angela's request. The guy decides that he just dreamed it all, and that's why he feels déjà vu. However, he fails to use this to his advantage. The interview fails again because of the head teacher's tears. The schoolboy goes to the first aid post and asks for help. Seeing how others are helped, Rob decides to figure it out on his own. He goes to the pharmacy again, but this time he forgets to warn Gabrielle about the cancellation. The lessons with Angela again end with Rob ending up in his bed, where his mother finds him. And so it goes on day after day. Tired of these repetitions, Rob sneaks into the bedroom of high school student Lisa, with whom Stanley spends time. Telling his friend about his problem, he suggests that it's all about hormones, and suggests that the 3 of them quickly resolve the issue. The next morning, the situation starts from this point, but it is no different from the previous ones. Realizing that it's all about the bright endings that throw him back, Rob checks his theory with the help of a certain website, and it is confirmed. The guy starts to lose his nerve, and once again, when the athletes spray him with a water pistol, he breaks the wall and is forced to run away from the high school students. Once trapped, Rob has to pull down his pants in front of the boys to get back to his bedroom. This time, he avoids talking to his father and tries to change the course of conversation with his friends to diversify his day. He arrives at school in a minicar, and instead of going to class and the interview, he and Gabrielle go to the school bus to smoke. Sharing a cigarette in half, the friends recall the day they met in 3rd grade. Looking at his friend, Rob feels very uncomfortable because he has already chosen to go out with Angela several times instead of watching an intellectual show with Gabrielle. Deciding to make the best of the situation, Rob fulfills his long-held dream of doing something weird in the teacher's restroom. After that, he drives his girlfriend around the school, eating donuts and not caring about the interview, which he fails again. Passing by an open classroom, Rob notices that a literature class is in session and remembers one more thing. He enters the classroom and checks if the teacher's great soul is real, surprising her and his classmates. The boy is having fun and decides to take revenge on Sally for the insults from the 4th grade. But it seems this time he went too far. The athlete gets up and pushes the boy against the wall, striking him in a forbidden place. Rob is taken to the principal's office, as he has managed to surprise everyone during the day. In the office, the boy learns that he is in for a serious showdown. The cops and his parents are coming to the school, who are sure that their son is obsessed with all sorts of nonsense. The student asks to go to the restroom, but the principal doesn't take any chances and asks him to stay in his chair until the police arrive. Then Rob solves the problem on the spot, wanting to go back to the bedroom. He puts his hand down his pants. The director notices what's going on behind his back, and a scandal breaks out. Rob escapes from the office to the women's locker room, where he tries to continue his plan. But after Sally's blow, it seems that not everything is working properly. Stanley tries to help as much as he can, but it only makes things worse, so he decides to give up. Fortunately, another punch from Sally solves the problem, and everything starts again. Exhausted, Rob doesn't even want to have fun anymore. He wanders apathetically around the school, and Stanley tries to talk to him, but nothing works. When it comes to the interview, Rob no longer tries to be nice to the head teacher, because he realizes that all this is not his desire, but the desire of other people. He doesn't want to go to university or visit Angela. That is why nothing makes him happy. Instead of going to the blonde, Rob goes to Gabrielle and tells her everything, hoping that his friend will believe him. The girl is doubtful, but tries to help her friend and takes him to a fortune teller. However, the house is not very welcoming to guests, and this brings Rob back to the bedroom. This time, Rob tells his friends about what is happening to him at school. He has to make an effort to find out the meaning of the word that his grandmother shouted the day before, throwing herself at the guests. It turns out that the strange word meant a curse, but Rob has no idea how to break it. The boy finds words that convince his friends that he is not lying. After thinking about it, Stanley assumes that somewhere in this day, Rob made a mistake, and everything will repeat until he fixes it. Rob begins to deal with everything one by one. He tells Angela that he will come to her to make her feel good. Having learned from his friend's advice, this time he is much more active. Suddenly, the guy realizes what's really going on. Angela doesn't like him. She just planned to use him to do her homework. Leaving the blonde's house, Rob sees his father, who has learned about the failed interview. The father persuades his son to put on the blindfold and takes him to the head teacher to try his luck again. The boy has to listen to the sad story again, but this time the man pulls himself together and conducts the interview. He emphasizes that he hasn't heard from the boy why he wants to go to college, because he only talks about his parents' wishes. Rob realizes that he doesn't really want to go to college, or maybe he does, but hasn't thought about it yet. In fact, he thinks about Gabrielle all the time. After a drink, the father decides to help his son, and together they go to the girl's house. Rob climbs through the window of Gabrielle's room and confesses that he hasn't had anything with Angela, but the girl doesn't care. She asks her friend to leave. When he doesn't agree, Gabrielle decides to move his friend back to the bedroom, taking off his outerwear. At that moment, the girl's father enters the room. Rob gathers up the courage to confess his love to his friend in front of the man, after which he plans to go home and start all over again tomorrow. Gabrielle persuades her friend to stay so that they can finally make it work for the first time. This is not to say that it is a success, but still, Rob no longer disappears in time. After emotional satisfaction, he stays in his friend's bed, and his curse disappears. If you have watched the video so far, you should know that I am happy to have viewers like you. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klonsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.